Man-child, or you can call me Kenny Child. This is my quantum gravity video 19. In this series video, I will give a topic of. The topic of this video is a theoretical proof of the existence of the Planck Black Hole. I have talked about in my previous videos so many times about the Planck Black Holes, but someone will be curious. Does the Planck Black Hole exist, and how do you prove it? So in this video, I'm going to give a theoretical proof. And at first, I will show a number of equations, total 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so that this equation actually I have already previously mentioned in my video 8. However, someone will also be curious how can we prove that these equations are real, and as I previously mentioned, that they commute with each other. Now in this topic, I first have to prove that they are commutative with each other, and then they are real. This is the equations. Equation 1 is h bar is already in my previous video 2. H bar is equal to the Planck mass multiplied by the Planck radius multiplied by c. And the second equation 2, is E squared is equal to 10 to the power 7 times Planck mass times the Planck radius times the alpha. Alpha is the fine structural constant. Actually, this equation were mentioned by me in my video 2. Video 1, video 2. But now I'm doing a different thing is to prove that they commute with each other and that they are real equations. Okay, from equation 1 and 2, which I just shown you, that we immediately get h bar divided by c is equal to E squared divided by 10 to the power 7 divided by alpha. And therefore alpha and because alpha is equal to mu naught times E squared times c divided by 2h. 2h is Planck constant 6.626 times 10 to the power minus 34 joule second. And this is this relationship. Alpha is equal to mu squared mu naught times E squared times c divided by 2h. This is from a table published jointly by the Royal Society, the Institute of Physics, and the Royal Society of Chemistry. This relation is from there. And from h bar divided by c is equal to E squared divided by 10 to the power 7 alpha. And because alpha is equal to mu naught E squared c times divided by 2h, we immediately get the third relationship. The third equation is x bar divided by c is equal to E squared divided by 10 to the power 7 times alpha, and therefore is equal to E squared 2h divided by 10 to the power 7 mu naught E times c squared. and will be equal to 4 pi h bar is equal to 10 to the power 7 times 10, 4 pi times 10 to the power minus 7 times c. And the final result is equal to h bar divided by c. This one. And that's to say I have proved that equation 1 and equation 2 commute and they are equal. And it's equal to QED and the squares here, meaning that I have proved this. And then look at just one thing to note is that 1 and 2 equations are not limited to Planck mass and Planck length as I seem to use them. This equation 1 and equation 2 also apply to other particles, all other particles. Like for example, hydrogen, electron, and so on. But they must be the same particle. But in two equations, you cannot use equation 1 for hydrogen atom and then the equation 2 for electron. Then they will not be equal. But they must both refer to the same particle entity. Now, equation 3 now I've referred to C is equal to pi lambda, which which represents the wavelength, times nu, which represents the frequency, and c represents the light speed. This equation meaning light speed is equal to wavelength times frequency. Because now show them this equation is correct. Is lambda is equal to r in 1 here. In equation 1 here I have r, the Planck PL represents the Planck mass, Planck radius, and then here in this equation the lambda here is actually equal to the r in the first equation, because the wavelength is equal to radius. In this equation represent the radius, but in this equation is the wavelength. But both mean under the de Broglie vector wave theory, they are the same thing. And therefore, from equation 1, we got lambda is equal to radius is equal to h bar divided by mc, the mass mc means the mass times the light speed. Here. And because the the frequency is equal to 1 divided by r divided by c, the frequency is equal to the radius divided by the light speed. Is equal, therefore, it's equal to c divided by r. C divided by r. Therefore, lambda times frequency from the nu, that's the wavelength times frequency, is equal to h bar divided by mc, that the h bar divided by the mass divided by the light speed multiplied by the light speed divided by r is equal to c. The final result is equal to c. Yeah. Thus, I have proved that the wavelength times frequency is equal to the light speed, QED. Here, the QED here, I prove it. Now equation 4 is that h bar multiplied by the frequency nu is equal to E, the energy. The capital E represents energy. This is because the frequency nu is equal to C divided by R, which I just brought out in the third equation, and therefore h, the h bar, which is equal to 1.055 times 10 to the power minus 34 joule second, the unit of it, multiplied by the frequency nu will be equal to h bar multiplied by C divided by R, because from the equation 3, from the proof of equation 3, we've got the nu is equal to C divided by R. So in this equation 4, which is h bar multiplied by C divided by R. Therefore, it's equal to mc squared, the equation, and which mc squared, of course, is equal to E, the energy. So I've put a QED here. QED here means I prove it. Now I come to the fifth equation. The fifth equation is actually I have not put down the QED and the sixth equation, the last equation, sixth equation. These equations which have been brought out by him in certain highly respected literature. Hawking's black hole temperature equation. This fifth equation is we've got here. E is equal to the B small with the suffix K, meaning that it is a Boltzmann's constant, a thermodynamics constant, Boltzmann constant, times T, which is the temperature in degree Kelvin. The Hawking black hole temperature was given in his famous book, The Universe in a Nutshell, by Stephen Hawking of 2001, and in which he stated that the black hole temperature is equal to 80H, with the suffix H is equal to h bar c square divided by 8 pi divided by the Boltzmann constant B suffix K divided by G, the Newton's constant, gravitational constant, multiplied by the mass of the black hole, is equal to 1.41 h times 10 to the power 32 degree Kelvin. And therefore, the energy of the black hole is equal to 1.41 h times 10 to the power 32 Kelvin multiplied by 1381 times 10 to the power minus 23 joule per degree Kelvin, which is just the Boltzmann constant, and it's equal to what? 1.959 times 10 to the power 9 joule, which is exactly the Planck energy. The Planck energy, which is equal to the actually, of course, energy is always mass times c square. And this is, in this case, is equal to Planck mass times c square. And the sixth equation is for the sixth equation is Cm divided by R is equal to c square. Meaning that the Newton gravitational constant multiplied by the mass of a black hole is divided by the radius of the black hole is equal to c square. This is, as I mentioned in my previous video 2, this is called a black hole condition for black hole. Gm divided by r may not be equal to c squared, but it's the only case in which it's equal to c squared is the black hole, when the mass is a black hole mass, the radius is a black hole radius. But in this case, and this of G is the gravitational constant is a constant. Only in this case, but only if in this case that is equal to the c squared. In this case, in this equation, if you put m is equal to a Planck mass and r is equal to a Planck radius, then it will satisfy the equation for black hole. That is, it will be equal to c squared, which also commute. This equation also commutes with the final result of the derivation of the Bernoulli theorem. With this, I mentioned in my video 3 already. Why my video 2 and 3? In video 2, I mentioned Gm divided by r is equal to c squared. In video 3, I mentioned is the value theorem. The value theorem derivation, and the derivation to the final result Gm divided by 2r is equal to c squared. Well, I mentioned all this equation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which show also that there is a Planck black hole of Planck mass. The mass of this black hole is equal to Planck mass, and the radius of the black hole is equal to the Planck length. Planck length is 1.616 times 10 to the power minus 35 meter. Planck mass is 2.177 times 10 to the power minus 8 kilogram. And what is the properties of this black hole? Is that it rotates with angular momentum h bar. H bar is 1.055 times 10 to the power minus 34 joule second. H bar. This h bar will exactly equal to Planck mass times multiplied by Planck length times multiplied by c. This is the typical unit of the angular momentum. Is the mass multiplied by the radius multiplied by the linear speed of rotation. And we have already mentioned about this the mass and the radius and the angular momentum. Now I mentioned this couple moment. If it's rotation, it has a couple moment. Couple moment is equal to 1.602 times 10 to the power minus 34. Well, 1.602 times 10 to the power minus 19 bracket all square. You see, and this is equal to actually 2.566 times 10 to the power minus 38. And this figure, this numerical value is equal to the 10 to the power 7 multiplied by the Planck mass and multiplied by the Planck length, the Planck radius, multiplied by alpha, which is the Weierstrass constant. This equation I mentioned so many times. Actually, this equation was derived by me in video 1 of my series. And what alpha? Alpha is just the conversion factor from E square to the mass, Planck mass and the Planck radius, and vice versa. Because vice versa means if you want to get the couple moment E square, then you have to multiply by this 4, 10 to the power 7 times Planck mass times Planck radius times alpha, right? And then you get the E square. And then if you want to E square turn to, you can also divide 1.602 times 10 to the power 19 bracket square by this alpha, and then you get back 10 to the power 7 times Planck mass and Planck length, and the Planck length radius. Actually, this I've mentioned all this in both in my video 2 and in my video 13. And what is the energy of this this Planck black hole is equal to the Planck energy. That's what to say 1.959 times 10 to the power 10 to the power 9 joules. And what about the temperature of this Planck black hole? Is equal to 1.418 times 10 to the power 32 degree Kelvin, which I've already mentioned by 5 here, equation 5 here. But you have a query. Why? How can, if the energy is so high, why can this Planck hole exist at all? When we not evaporate all at once because the temperature is so high. They have to mention this, so I have to mention this. According to the direct delta function, the energy and temperature of the black hole have a spike at the origin, at the origin only, which is the singularity of the black hole. That is to where the Planck radius, the radius here becomes 0. Is the singularity at the origin. It's also the origin of the black hole, but the spike meaning is that suddenly becomes very high, so high. You have the temperature of 10 to the power 32 degrees, and yes, energy equal to Planck energy, but then it quickly becomes 0 elsewhere. This is what's shown by the direct delta function. That means it has a spike at the origin, but it becomes 0 elsewhere. So the spike, and then the spike was for a very short period of time, 0.0000010 to the power at the Planck time. It's of the order of the Planck time, 10 to the power minus 44 seconds. So even though it's so high, the temperature is 10 to the power 32 degrees, and the energy is so high, 1.959 times 10 to the power 9 joules, but because it exists for just the Planck time scale, energy temperature spike, but then it quickly becomes 0 elsewhere. So it doesn't have any effect. This answers the query why is the temperature can be so high, 10 to the power 32 degree, and the energy be so high, 1.959 times 10 to the power 9 joules, but you will not explode or evaporate the black hole altogether, because it exists only for a time or a Planck time scale period, which is 10 to the power minus 44 second. Now I come to the shape. What is the shape? What's the formation and the properties and the behavior of this Planck black hole? Is that they are exactly, it has the shape, formation, property, behavior of a hydrogen atom. That's what that is. That's to say, the proton, the electron, and the electron neutrino are just the outermost boundary of this Planck Black Hole. And this is the, I've already referred to this as a new hydrogen atom model via my videos 2, 3, and 4 of this series. And now comes topic C. What are the physical phenomena proving the new hydrogen atom model which I just mentioned? As all physical laws of energy, momentum, angular momentum, force, and action are based on the matter in relation to which they pertain or act. And the hydrogen atom is the fundamental building block of all matter. Which please see my video 3. I've elaborated in that video. In the universe, all matter in the universe, the hydrogen atom is the fundamental building block of all matter in the universe. In my video 16 of this series, this series in which I'm talking is the quantum gravity video 19. In the video 16 of the series, I have had quoted there Lao Tzu, which is a famous Chinese natural philosopher about 2,500 years ago. I quoted saying, Tao, which I explained in that video 16, as the rarest, coldest form of energy, the thinness of the energy of the least density, the smallest density, and the coldest of the lowest temperature is Tao. Tao spawns one, means it generates one element number 1, the hydrogen atom. And then is that 1 spawns 2. What's 2? 2 is not element number 2, but neutron. Neutron, that is the hydrogen atom with its outermost parts, the electron and the electron neutrino, all compressed to below the wavelength of the proton. That is, the wavelength of the proton is 0.21 times 10 to the power minus 15 meter, and it is compressed even lower than the proton, the wavelength. Through what? Through the nuclear fusion in the cores of stars or gigantic hydrogen nebulae. And then next 2 spawns 3. That is to say, that means I've interpreted as this is actually my interpretation. The hydrogen atom and the neutron, these 2, spawn helium atoms, which is free, the free. 2 protons plus 2 neutrons plus 2 electrons equal to the element number 2, the helium. And lastly, 3 spawns everything in the universe. That is the hydrogen atom, the 3, this trio, the hydrogen atom, the neutron, and the helium atom, these 3 in various combinations then form all the elements on the periodic table. I give some example here. For example, you have nitrogen is equal to a helium atom plus another helium atom plus another helium atom plus a hydrogen atom. There's 3 hydrogen helium atoms plus 1 hydrogen atom. The oxygen is equal to 4 helium atoms, a combination of 4 helium atoms. The iron, the element iron, is equal to the atom is equal to 13 helium atoms, a combination of 13 helium atoms. What is the copper? What is the element copper? It is equal to the combination of for iron plus 1 helium atom plus 1 hydrogen atom, and so on. All these, you can in this way express all the elements on the periodic table by means of the helium atoms, the number of helium atoms plus the number of hydrogen atoms. You can express all the elements on the periodic table in this way. One helium atom is equal to 2 hydrogen atoms plus 2 neutrons for all the elements on the periodic table. And what next? The periodic table in turn, the elements on the periodic tables in turn, in various combinations, compose everything in the universe. Thus, we can regard whatever now we can come back from the combinations and of the elements in the periodic table to force, action, energy, etc. Whatever force or action which act in or is imposed on or by whatever objects composed of whatever matter, actually we can consider them to be actually imposed on or by different sets of hydrogen atoms. And this is atom is here in hydrogen atom here, the phrase include neutrons, because neutrons are not different from hydrogen atom, except as the aforesaid. That means they are by nuclear fusion in the course of stars or gigantic hydrogen nebulae, they are compressed to below the wavelength of with the electron, and the electron neutrino compressed below the wavelength of the proton. And with this in mind, therefore, ultimately, all force and action on or by the Planck black holes of the Planck mass 2.177 times 10 to the power minus 8 kilograms and radius of Planck length 1.616 times 10 to the power minus 35 meters. Because they are actually the center of the hydrogen atom, as I mentioned above, and this is to prove that they are now that's why I said, as demonstrated by the work examples in my video 15. In video 15, the last part of my video 15, I demonstrate by three work examples to show that when the units used are Planck mass and Planck length, calculations using the Newton's law of gravity and the new Coulomb's laws of electromagnetism, they use the same answer. They use the Coulomb's law equation and the Newton's law of equation. They're the same. Why? That's because mass and length are related to Coulomb square or E square is equal to m times r times 10 to the power 7 times alpha. I have mentioned above m and r here, the mass and radius does not limit themselves to Planck mass and Planck length. They also include all other mass and radius, which satisfy the equation h bar is equal to mass times radius times 10 to the power 7 times alpha. All other which satisfy this equation. The h bar is equal to m mass times radius times c. This equation is general, but one equation, one of these mass, any mass you mention in one of this equation must be the same mass as in the other equation. It cannot be different mass, as I mentioned at the outset, that you must consider these two equations must be considered together. For the same reason, gravity and electromagnetism are proved to be identical, proved by me in my video 5. Gravity and electromagnetism are actually the same thing. I proved this in my video 5 in a mathematical derivation using the Planck mass and Planck length. You can refer back to my video 5. But someone will ask why, how you've only proved that gravity and electromagnetism are identical. But what about the strong nuclear force? There is no known theoretical equation for the nuclear strong force, except the semi-empirical mass formula. What is shown in my video 6 of the series, when the distance to the center of mass, center of hydrogen atoms, let's say the center of hydrogen atom under my new hydrogen atom model, is actually the center of the hydrogen atom is actually the Planck Black Hole. When the distance to this Planck Black Hole are set to be the same, for example, 0.21 times 10 to the power minus 15, the proton radius, then the calculation, both under the semi-empirical formula, mass formula, and the formula calculated under the Coulomb's law equation, that's E squared divided by 4 pi epsilon naught times the radius square, are the same. The answer is the same. In both cases, it's 1.12 times 10 to the power minus 12. I think I remember, just if I remember correctly. Joules, both are the same. Similarly, general relativity and quantum mechanics can be proved to be the same. In substance, their apparent incompatibility is only due to the fact that in the case of general relativity, it is couched solely in tensor calculus or algebra, whereas in quantum mechanics, it's couched in other branches of mathematics, excluding tensor calculus and algebra. However, as shown in my video 7 of this series, both the Einstein field equation of general relativity and the Schrodinger time-independent equation are wave equations of the form d squared del psi squared del t squared is equal to del psi squared del x squared plus del psi squared del y squared plus del psi squared del z squared. And as shown in my video 18, in my last video of this series, both the Oppenheimer-Volkoff equation, which is the general relativistic form of the Newtonian hydrostatic equilibrium equation, and the time-independent Schrodinger equation of quantum mechanics have the same final solution. The final solution is E is equal to mc squared. That's the ordinary equation for famous equation for energy. E is equal to mc squared, implying that those set out in the two apparently mutually exclusive sets of mathematics, they are in substance the same, subject only to what? To the, as I already mentioned, they must both refer to the same entity only when the same entity is being considered. For example, when hydrogen atom, electron, or neutron is being considered, and 1 and 2, the Planck units, the Planck mass, the Planck length are being used in computation. This is the only two limitations on their being the same. You cannot use different units for two different sets of units, one for quantum mechanics, one for the general relativity, and you cannot consider in one case hydrogen atom, but the other case is the electron. Then they're not be equal. But if all these units and the entity are referred to the same, then they actually in substance this general relativity equations will be equal. The answer will yield the same answer as the quantum mechanics equations. So I have stopped here for this quantum gravity video 19 of my series.